95.7 The Game breaking news. Brought to you by the Beat the Streak podcast. Get an inside edge on how to win the $5.6 million prize every day this baseball season. Listen on Odyssey or wherever you get your podcasts.
Breaking news. This time it pertains to the San Francisco 49ers. Adam Schefter just tweeted that the 49ers are signing veteran safety Tashaun Gibson. Per source, of course, Gibson worked out for the Niners in Eagan, Minnesota last week. The former Cleveland Browns / Jacksonville Jaguars / Houston Texan and Chicago Bear is 32 years old. Just turned 32 August 7th. Young man out of Wyoming. Now in his 9th year in the league. This will actually be 10. He was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Played there for 4 years. Jaguars for 3. Not a bad safety, but obviously the 49ers are concerned about Jimmy Ward and that hamstring. Tashaun Gibson, your newest member of the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
I mean, that's kind of where they're at right now, and they need bodies back there. You kind of referenced this, so clearly the injury to Jimmy Ward is a little more significant than we thought. And also, internally, they must not like Tarvarius Moore and maybe Odom. I don't know. Odom's more of a special teams guy than he is like a back-end safety. I don't know where he fits in, B. But I would think that they wouldn't sign him this late in the deal unless there was somebody going to stick around.
27 career interceptions, career high in 2014 with 6 interceptions for the Cleveland Browns. So 27 career picks. Hufanga, also the other safety. Somebody mentioned on the chat, I think it was Hawk Hader, our boy Hawk, on the YouTube chat, basically saying that Jaquiski Tartt may get cut by the Eagles. Would you bring him back into the fold for the 49ers? I don't know. That last image in the NFC Championship is damning. Dropping that pick.
Would he be an upgrade over on the roster? Probably, but very marginally.
Yeah. I'm kind of out on Tartt.
And I think they just need to move on.
Yeah, I'm kind of out on Tartt. All right, Dave Flemming. We got Dave Flemming on the line. He's coming up. All right, we got Dave Flemming's intro, right? Do we got an intro for Flemming? No, we don't play that. That's right, because it's so damn long. We don't play it. Anyway, Dave Flemming, presented by the County of Santa Clara. Book a COVID-19 booster shot now at SECFreevax.
We're in the dog days.
.org or call 211. Look, I'm watching Flem and I'm listening to Javi Lopez, who I think is doing a marvelous job next to Flem on the broadcast. And I'm like, Giants just get a win for those two guys. They're exhausted at Coors Field. Get a win for Flem and Javi Lopez, for crying out loud. And they do get a win yesterday with a great tag by Evan Longoria, great throw by Lamont Wade Jr. And the Giants escape Colorado and salvage a game in that 3-game set to snap a 4-game losing streak. Flem, good morning. Boy, did the Giants need to win in the worst way last night.
Yes, they did. And, one thing I want to point out, because you mentioned it right there, and it just jogged my memory. 2 days ago, I was at the game at the ballpark early before the game, and I was watching Antoine Richardson with a fungo bat and Lamont Wade out in right field hitting fungos to Lamont and having him throw to bases. Not just work on throwing, but also positioning himself for a throw, where to position himself in the outfield for a better possibility for a catch, reads off the bat, all that stuff. But in particular, they were working on throws, which has been a problem for the Giants outfield. And 2 days later, really good throw to third base. So I appreciated that. These guys, it hasn't gone well. It's been a super, super frustrating year. It's been an underachieving year for the Giants, but they are still, those players and coaches are still trying to find a way, even this late in the year, to get things turned around, to work on the stuff that isn't working. And I thought it was a small moment of that work paying off.
Can I ask a question, a follow-up to that? Because you hear a lot of the older players talk about, we used to take infield and outfield. And obviously, Little League is not, the big leagues, but you do infield and outfield, and it just prepares you for the game. What does infield look like, outfield look like, in terms of the preparation, whether it's fungos or whatever that they're doing out there? What does that look like in the modern day? Is that every day? Is that once a week? Is that never? What has it been looking like for this particular organization, the Giants?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say a few years ago, it had all but disappeared. And now the Giants do a lot more on-field defensive work than they did even just a few years ago. that doesn't always mean like traditional infield practice, although every day somebody is out there, not necessarily everybody, but every day somebody's out there doing work. What has really changed is that there isn't a lot of on-field batting practice. There just isn't. Most players now don't choose. It's always optional for the Giants, and most players don't choose to do the sort of standard classic on-field batting practice. They do their work inside in the cage against those, well, sometimes against live pitching, but also against those tough machines that are built to kind of mimic what the day's starting pitcher is going to feature. They can program these pitching machines to throw at an angle with a spin in a style of the pitcher of the day. And so most players have sort of given up regular on-field batting practice, and they do their hitting work. So in the past, a lot of the defensive work would come during traditional BP, where players would be out on the field taking ground balls while the batting practice is happening. Now, the on-field work is mostly dedicated defensive work. You've probably seen some of the Giants doing work with those little inverted T-ball machines that spin ground balls. They do a lot of that. Everybody does a lot of that with those small training gloves, just kind of working on hand-eye, clean picks off certain spins. And then there is sort of more traditional, hey, here's a coach hitting ground balls, working on turning double plays. And I would say a lot of Giants players do that defensive work on the field most days. The outfield work is probably, I've always thought there could be more outfield work. You just don't get a chance to throw to bases, throw home in practice very often. I've always thought there could be a little more of that, and that's why it stood out to me the other day when I actually saw the Giants doing it.
Dave Flemming on the Morning Roast, as he is every single week. Of course, play-by-play announcer for the San Francisco Giants, does a little bit of everything for ESPN, college football, college basketball, of course, and golf. Flem, how hard is it right now for Gabe Kapler to pick someone in that bullpen right now to shut things down? Yesterday, things got so hairy with Dominic Leon, Young, even Zach Littell there. You're a little concerned about this bullpen right now struggling, including Dominic Leon.
There's nowhere to go. I mean, there just isn't. Camilo Doval is the one guy who has sort of stayed consistent and effective. And I thought Gabe's quote last week was, because he got questioned. There was a game where maybe you could have brought Doval in early, and he got questioned about it after the game. I'm forgetting.
Yeah, the Arizona game, I believe, last Wednesday. He got the 4-out save, right. Yeah.
And so, anyway, he got asked about it, and he said, look, Camilo can't get all of the outs every day in the bullpen. Somebody else has to be able to get outs. And I think it was well said. Like, you can nitpick about a specific scenario where, could we have used this guy, or can Doval get 4 instead of 3 outs, or whatever. But it can't be one guy. It has to be everybody. And right now, everybody outside of the one is really struggling. And it's a problem. I mean, it is. I think most of it, at least with Leon, with Brebbia, maybe even with Tyler Rogers, I think a lot of it has to do with just pure fatigue and buildup. And it's not only this year, but going back to last year, just using those guys a ton, and they look gassed to me. They do. And I don't know, how do you solve that? I don't know. I mean, the Giants have tried to back off. They've backed off Brebbia for a few days, and the stuff hasn't necessarily bounced back the way that he probably would have liked. You kind of have to just fight through it and keep running your guys out there. There aren't a lot of other options. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's obviously a problem right now for this team.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's definitely a problem. They just need somebody to step up and have a decent run here. Evan Longoria was awesome yesterday, and it felt like when he was in Tampa Bay, he would have games like yesterday more often. And you just look at his 10 years in Tampa. I mean, 260 homers, almost 900 RBIs, a 270 batting average, elite defense, and he was healthy. And it feels like in the 5 years with the Giants, all his numbers are like 1/4, 1/5 of what they were through his 10 years in Tampa. How are we going to remember Longoria? Because I don't know if this is the end. I don't know if he's going to come back again next year. It just feels like I wish he would have stayed healthier, because I feel like it's an incomplete. As I know he's older, I know he's not as productive as he was at one point, but the injuries have really, really diminished his importance to this team. And God, they could have used him the last 5 years.
Yeah, yesterday was a glimpse of the guy who has been a borderline Hall of Famer. He has been. His numbers at that position are really, really impressive. He's the greatest player in the history of the Tampa franchise. And so it is a shame that the body hasn't cooperated for him here. I think that's been most of it. When he's been healthy, he has been a good player for the Giants. And even this year, like you look at his numbers this year, he's got a home run pace of...
Agreed.
You know, he if he had played even close to a full year this year, you're talking about a 30 home run kind of season.
Yeah.
And his defense still rates as good. Yesterday he made a couple just tremendous defensive plays. I do think it's an incomplete, and I think it's because of the breakdown of his body, and it's happened so many different times. You know, that to me, one of the lasting images of this year will be when the Giants finally got him healthy, and he did a couple positive things for 2 or 3 days, and then he was running to first base, and the hamstring grabbed on him. And he went back to the dugout, and it took – nobody knew for a second. I had noticed it, and everybody else, he kind of jogged back to the dugout, and I looked at him, and he was sitting on the dugout bench with his face buried in his hands, and he knew, like, it's happened again. And I think it's just been very frustrating for him that his body – hasn't cooperated. It's not for a lack of work and rehab and, you know, trying to come back. It isn't for that. But, gosh, he still can do it when he's out there. I don't know what he wants to do. I haven't really had a long conversation with him. I think he's gone back and forth. He's had some comments about his plans for the future. I wouldn't be shocked if he just said, I just can't. Yeah, I think for these guys, a lot of it is mental stress. It's like when you keep getting hurt, it just wears you out. You know, it's like, here we go again, times 5 every year. And, you know, whether he can tolerate that again, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I advocated for Longoria when he was in Tampa Bay. I thought the Giants could kick the tires on him and make a deal for him. And 2 weeks later, they did. And I was like, man, Longo third base. But, you know, like you said, Flem, you said it so well. The body's just breaking down. You could do nothing about that. Speaking of which, a guy breaking down, as we're talking to Dave Flemming here on the Morning Roast, Mike Yastrzemski. Oh, boy, it's been rough for him, batting 115 this month, 1 hit in his last 31 ABs. The defense is there, but at the plate, he's been an automatic out. We could talk about the bunt heard around the world with Brandon Belt II, but Mike Yastrzemski, man, picking the wrong time to go through the slump.
Yeah, it's a tough watch right now because he's now, you know, sometimes you watch players have a slump and you kind of think, man, you know, he's still having good at-bats, and he's hitting the ball hard, and baseball happens that way, right? This is a sport, it's a cliche, but it's so true. This is a sport of failure. You just, even the very best players have to deal with failing a lot of the time. And so there's, you know, what comes along with that is you have to have the perspective when you watch and analyze. You have to remember that and say that not everybody, in fact, nobody is going to be going good all the time. Even the greatest players have stretches, sometimes long stretches, where the results just aren't there. What has happened with Mike, though, to my eyes, is the process has now broken down. The struggles have become so extreme that his at-bats just don't look like Yastrzemski at-bats. He's I don't know if he's just out-and-out guessing too often or too much and guessing wrong, or I don't know what's going on, but he's taking pitches right down the middle. He's swinging at pitches in the dirt. He's not squaring the ball up. I mean, he's hitting the ball hard so much less frequently than he used to. I mean, it was nice to see him yesterday. He got a big hit. It was an important hit. You know, Mike is still trying. He is such a grinder. He's defined his whole career. But to me, what's been hardest to watch with Yaz has been the quality of the bats has really just plummeted. And until he can get back to swinging at the right pitches, making the right swing decisions, it's going to be really hard for him. It's easy for me to sit here and say that. But until he can do that, it's going to be hard to see this thing getting turned around.
Yeah, and the off-balance, unproductive swings are just, especially in crucial situations, is driving everybody crazy. I'm sure driving him crazy. I went to the game when Crawford hit the walk-off, and I took my wife, and we're watching Brandon Belt walk up to the plate. It was Tuesday night, and she goes, gosh, he looks like he's hurting as he's just coming up to the plate, just coming up. And then there was a play where somebody had bunted, and he tried to dive, and I felt for the guy. Like, I legitimately felt bad for him in terms of his body just can't do what he wants it to do. And then flash forward to the bunt, and everybody's losing their minds about the bunting in that situation. And, he's one of your, middle of the order guys, and you need him to drive in runs and everything. What was your read on the whole Brandon Belt bunt thing?
Well, I've had lots of conversations with people in and out of the organization about it. It's been a topic of conversation, obviously. And I guess I've softened my stance on it a little bit. If you're so compromised and so banged up and you're not seeing a guy, which clearly he wasn't that day against Gallen, and you really, truly deep down think that you can't get a hit against this guy, your only chance is to get on base and keep the line moving, then I guess if you really believe that, then how can we argue with you're trying to do something to help your team in a spot where you don't think you can do anything different to help your team? And so if that's really the case, then okay, I can buy that, I guess. I really would have liked to have seen it. If that's the case, then I really would have liked to have seen the bunt attempt not with 2 strikes.
Right.
Like they weren't defending the bunt at all. So if you really believe that, don't do it where, okay, your at-bat is over when you do it. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, maybe at that point it's like a cry for help. Like if I can't do it, then, I know the Giants don't have a lot of other options, but maybe Belt just needs some time to not play and try to get things together, get the body feeling better. That was the other part of it. The third part of it, to me, the part where I still just believe you got to just do your best to get a hit there, and not is you're a middle of the order player on a team that has playoff chances, and so much of this stuff is fuzzy, and you can't put your finger on it. You can't quantify what it means, but you're one of the sluggers, the leaders, the power hitters, and when you do that, it just sends a message throughout your team that we're sunk. Like, our guy can't do it. And so that's what was discouraging to me about the moment, because I love Brandon Belt. I do. He's been a great Giant. He's had great moments recently. Last year, he was the best Giants hitter, easily. Yeah. He was one of the best hitters in the league. It wasn't that long ago that he was one of the best hitters in the league. But it was hard for me to watch that moment, and I was speechless when I saw him do it. It just, to me, it was all the hand wringing, and we've talked about it going round and round. I don't think it was the right decision.
No, and who knows if he would have even beat out the bunt. I mean, he's not the most athletic guy when it comes to running down the first baseline. So, Brandon Belt, the bunt hurt around the world. He's obviously compromised, batted eighth Saturday night, 0 for 4. But Flem, I want to know, what do you do with the day off in Detroit, Michigan? Do you drive up to Lions training camp to go check in on Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley? What does one do in Detroit with the day off?
Okay, well, choice one is definitely a no. I am not going to Lions training camp. You go ahead and throw out another suggestion for me. I'm open, but
Auburn Hills Golf?
I didn't set up any golf here for Detroit. There is good golf in Detroit, and I probably should have. I was thinking about, I'm a Ford guy. I was thinking about going over and doing the whole factory tour and just seeing them make the new Lightning trucks. I was thinking that might be a fun off-day activity, but it's probably more likely that we're in a suburb of Detroit, so we're not downtown, so it's a little quieter where we are. Probably going to try to find a bike and go take a little, cruise around, maybe go to a movie. I think we're going to dinner, Javi and DC, Darren Chan, and maybe a few others. We'll go get a nice meal tonight. But it's not the most exciting off day for me.
No, Detroit, Michigan, baby. Fleming, Javi. Tell Javi we said hi. He's getting so much better on the broadcast. He's doing a great job. You guys have a great rapport. No doubt about that. Really enjoyed the call over the weekend out in Coors Field. Flem, take care. We'll talk to you next week. We see how this road trip ends. 2 in Detroit, 3 in Minnesota. This feels like the season, the pulse of the season could be, we're going to figure out where the Giants are going to be at going into September here before that big stretch of games between the Phillies, the Padres, and, of course, the Braves and Dodgers. Flem, take care.
Now, I'll leave you with this. The thing that Javi keeps saying, which I think is true, as unlikely as it feels some days, you still are only like, you got to do it. But if you can have a great 10 days, you're in it. Like you are.
Yeah.
That is not impossible. And so that's why you keep agonizing over these games and keep holding out some hope, because if you can really, truly, they didn't do it when they had a chance. They had 5 wins in a row. They had a chance to keep it going. They didn't do it. If somehow they can pull one of those out, they're in it. We'll see.
We'll see about that one. Flem, enjoy your day off.
Okay. I'll say hi to Dan Campbell for you.
Yes, please do. The Fight Detroit Lions. And Jared Goff, the local kid, man. Go check in on Jared Goff, man.
Thanks, Dave.
We're not getting any airtime on Hard Knocks. You see that, man? Okay, but Dave Flemming, the Brandon Belt Symposium. I mean, boy, sad.